How you doing? And we will be out here in force, even greater than this. We're planning on having 12 cannons here, firing back over there at the Confederates that will be returning fire with us here in just a minute. Johnsonville, the Battle of Johnsonville took place on November the 4th, 1864. The Confederates attacked the depot where we're standing. This was a 90-acre depot. There was approximately 119 buildings that existed here at the time. It's not the wooded park that you see today. The trees were clear cut. It was a very barren area. When you leave here today, stop by the visitor center. You'll see photographs of that we've enlarged. There was a large contingent of black troops here, the USCTs, United States Colored Troops, that basically built this place, and they manned a lot of the guns. We're actually also portraying today the 2nd Kansas Light Artillery. The 2nd Kansas and the 2nd U.S. Colored Light Artillery manned the guns at Johnsonville that fired on the Confederates that day. What they're going through right now is just a mock run-through of the actual drill. And if I can get you guys to kind of squeeze in, I know I'm going to end up losing my voice over this, so I want you to be able to hear me. In the vicinity of the depot, which was 90 acres, there was approximately 2,500 people that lived and worked here. The town of Johnsonville, today there's a new Johnsonville up on top of the hill. When they flooded the Tennessee River in 1944, that flooded the banks of the channel, that channel, you'll see the island that sits out there in the middle of the river. That's what's left of the remaining section of the western riverbank. So in 1864, Nathan Bedford Forrest and his Confederate troopers would have been that close. And Sergeant Zaring's section of Morton's Battery, Confederates, were positioned about right where that island is today. And they would have had a clear shot right into this depot. On November the 4th, following a week-long campaign, the guns of the Confederates positioned themselves in 5 spots directly across from the depot. And at exactly 2:00 p.m. on November the 4th, they unleashed a hellacious fire upon this depot. The Union gunners here, everybody in the depot were caught completely off guard. There's accounts that talks about the Confederates seeing women in hoop skirts shimmying up this hill to take refuge in the fort at the top. Along this bank that you see here today would have been a significant amount of buildings and barracks. The soldiers that were garrisoned in those barracks quickly returned inside, closed the shutters. There were loopholes in those barracks. There's even accounts of them firing out of those loopholes. The result of this was about a 2.5-hour battle. We do know that there was approximately close to 7,000 rounds exchanged in this battle, which is a tremendous amount of ordnance that was fired from a riverborne battle. The Battle of Johnsonville was a tremendously underrated battle because 3 weeks later it was pretty much overshadowed by the bloody battle affair of Franklin, Tennessee, and the Battle of Nashville. When this happened, it made headline news all the way to San Francisco. The Battle of Johnsonville was the last great Confederate victory of the war. By November of 1864, the Confederacy was losing the war badly, mainly because of operations like this. So this victory re-energized the Confederacy once again by the great commander Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now the Union gunners that were here, both black and white gunners, did a marvelous job that day returning fire to the Confederates from a fort that's right there. And as you leave here, if you just go around that bend, we have a trail that goes up there, and that fort still exists. We're about to mount some artillery up there. This being the first gun that you see right here. Yeah. Okay. And in just a minute, we're going to fire 2 shots today, so you'll see, but they're going through a series of steps that required 7 to 9 gunners per cannon. So what you see right here, you have a number 1 and 2 in the front of the wheels. The number 3 man that was on the right backside actually vented it. And then of course the number 4 man that stood to the left of the barrel was the one that would pull the lanyard. Okay, if y'all just might want to just do this.
I can't. Whoa.
Okay, I'm glad the wind kind of pushes that back in your face because you smell the sulfur from that. This kind of smells like rotten eggs.
Yeah.
That's what they used to make the black powder in those days. So you heard the noise created by just 2 guns. They were firing about 1 pound of black powder during the Civil War. We're shooting 8 ounces here.
Oh my Lord.
So a pound of powder is 16 ounces. So we're shooting a half a pound, a half of a round from what you would have heard during the Civil War. We actually have the guns down on the left are 3-inch ordnance rifles, and the park gun, the one that's being manned right here, these are all park rangers for the state of Tennessee. There's some managers mixed in there as well, but we actually have a state parks gun, which is this Parrott rifle that you see here. The Union ordnance at Johnsonville were Parrott guns and 3-inch ordnance rifles. So we are actually replicating exactly what they had during the Battle of Johnsonville. Just to wrap this up a little bit, after the battle, the Confederates withdrew that evening, and as Forrest later wrote in his diary, he said, "We retreated that night to a solid sheet of flame to the burning depot." So, and they said it would be illuminated 2 miles down the river. They could see this. So this place was an inferno. Most of it was self-inflicted. The Union commander here lost his nerve. The day of the battle, you see the rocks that are sticking out on this side. That's the edge of the wharf. This foundation that you see out here in the middle of the water is the foundation of the big double transfer building. You'll see a photograph of that in the museum. So when the trains came in here to load supplies, they would turn, the supplies would be loaded up from that building, and then they would return to Nashville 78 miles. We are exactly 78 miles from Nashville at this point. The next morning, the black gunners, as well as the black infantrymen and the 43rd Wisconsin, who, if we stopped at the infantry camp, that's who we're portraying down there today, ran to the edge of this water here, and they returned rifle fire to the retreating Confederates. There was not much action on the 5th. Some say that the Confederates returned the next morning to survey their damage. They did a good job at it because they telegraphed to Jefferson Davis in Richmond, Virginia, saying that Nathan Bedford Forrest had won a great Confederate victory, which he had. The buildings and most of what was consumed here was about 60%. The Union Army started immediately reconstructing Johnsonville. They built a second fort on a higher knob just south of here. So when you leave here today, if you go to the top of the hill, that second fort, known as the Upper Redoubt, both of those tied together were called Fort Johnson. So you had Fort Johnson, Upper and Lower Redoubt. This is the Lower Redoubt that was here during the battle. The Upper Redoubt is a much more massive earthwork. If you park up there in that lot today, you can walk across through the cemetery and walk up into that fort. Please stay off of those earthworks because we try to keep those preserved, but you can see that fort today. General Schofield, we have a tie to the Battle of Franklin. General Schofield's division built that fort. They were pulled out of here directly to stop General Hood's invasion of Tennessee. And of course that resulted, as y'all have read Civil War history, the bloody Battle of Franklin. In just a minute, we're going to be firing a second round. The Park Service policies is we have to put 10 minutes between each shot, just for safety. Some things that we're planning here for next year's 150th anniversary. We'll have a lot of people camping down here and in various areas of the park. We also will be rededicating the park itself, Johnsonville. We've invited Governor Haslam down here to have a ceremony here that morning on November the 1st. So if you keep that on your calendar, please mark that. It'll be the biggest day this park's had since its opening in 1969. So 45 years next year to be exact. So we're very excited about that. We'll be commemorating the 150th with Nathan Bedford Forrest State Park. That's, as the crow flies, 1 mile across this lake. Today they're actually doing the Confederate side of this event over there. So we've got the Union stuff going on here, which is historically accurate because this was the site of the Union Depot, and across the way there are the Confederates doing a living history. For next year, we plan on having boats that will shuttle people across. It's happening in the works. Sergeant, you ready? Sure. Commence. Once they were trained properly, they could be expected to fire 2 rounds in 1 minute. So they could go through this entire procedure of loading and firing in 30 seconds. So it was a considerable speed, and this is what the gunners were trained on consistently. The man standing between the limber and the cannon is the number 5 man. He's actually the gunner. He would be in charge of the piece. But he's the one that is issuing the command. He'll give a resounding yes as the powder monkey comes by him, acknowledging that the round is being delivered. So he yells out yes, saying that there is live ammunition